Kamakhya Devi Temple in Guwahati. Shaktism in India was a prevalent doctrine of energy, power, and eternal goddesses, which has supported Tantrism, the goddesses of desire. How these goddesses has been evolved as a Kamakhya Devi, and what is the story and history behind it is an interesting part. We know that in humanism, power of menstruation of women is a real story, whatever the goddesses may be. The real surviving mankind today, most of the natural thing of women body is menstruation. There may be thousands of stories in Purana that Parvati and Shiva and the other goddesses, their different sects, but the god of love and lust, the power to be potent again is the Kamakhya. Particularly, this temple is a center of Kulachara Tantra Marga and the site of Ambubachi Mela, the annual festival of the menstruation of the goddesses. But if we think in terms of archaeology, it is the 8th to 9th century. Many subsequently rebuilt this temple. The final temple is a hybrid architecture and a local style called Nilachal. It is also one of the oldest of 51 pithas or in the Shakta tradition. It is a place of worship, much of history because of the important pilgrimage today, and especially for those from Bengal in the 19th century during the colonial rule. Originally, this goddess was worshipped locally in an aniconic yoni set of a natural stone continues till today, and Kamakhya temple became identified with the state power when the Nilachal dynasty of Kanpur, today's Orissa, patronized at first and followed by Palas and Koch and the Oham dynasty. Kalika Puran, written during the Pala dynasty ruling era, connected this Naraka and legitimized progenitor of Kamrup king with the goddesses of Kamakhya representing the region, the Kamrup kingdom. Basically, this yoni style of Shaktism was worshipped by two. Some of the historians have suggested that Kamakhya temple is an ancient sacrificial site for an Austroasiatic tribal goddesses, Kamakhya. Of the Khasi and Garo people, supported by the folklore of these very people. The traditional account of Kalika Puran, which is of 10th century, and the Yogini Tantra has two records of these goddesses. Kamakhya is of the Kirat origin, and that the worship of Kamakhya predates the establishment of Kamarupa, that is 4th century. The earliest historical dynasty of Kamarupa is Vamana's 350 to 650, as well as Yuanzhong, the 7th century Chinese traveler, has ignored this Kamakhya. It is assumed that the worship at least till the period Kirata base beyond the Brahmanical orbits. The first epigraphic notice of Kamakhya is found in the 9th century Tejpur plate of Vaman Malaya Varman Dev of Mlech dynasty. Since the archaeological evidence to point out that the massive 8th to 9th century temple, it can be safely assumed that the earliest temple was constructed during the Mlech dynasty. From the molding of the plinth and bandhan, and the original temple clearly is of Nagar style, possibly of the Malwa style. Later, Palas of Kamarupa kings and Indrapal or Dharmapal, who followed the Tantric tenets, has renovated this temple, which has the evidence of Kalika Puran. Again, the Tantric sacrifices and mysticism and sorcery. Mystic Buddhism, also known as Vajrayana and popularly called as Sahaj cult, has to rose in this prominent area in 10th century, and it is found from the Tibetan record that some of the eminent Buddhist professors of Tibet in 10th century and 11th century hailed from the Kamrupa. So one can say today's temple is a assimilation of all these Tantrism from 3rd century till today, and renovated mainly in a coach structure by Oham dynasty, and at the end 1656 Oham under the king Jayadhwaja Singh has conquered the Kamrup, and after the battle of Itakuli he has renovated the temple.